Welcome to Communication Breakthrough. My name is Todd Wall, and we believe that intentional communication will lead to the breakthrough that you're looking for, both in your business and your life. We all want to be the leader that everyone follows, the hero who saves the day. The problem is we need people to actually follow us. And so in order to do that, it doesn't just happen naturally. We have to be intentional. We have to intentionally build a leadership voice that when we speak, others follow. Let's build that formula together so that we're not just marching ahead, like John Maxwell says, just on a walk. But when we look around, there's a team following us. Build your leadership voice. Let's do it together. Stick with us. All right, welcome back, everybody. Look, everybody wants to be the hero of their own movie, the star of their own show, the leader who saves the village from the amazing dragon who wants to steal the princess. Everybody wants to be the hero, the leader, the one leading the show. But the problem is you've got to live in a way that makes people follow you. You've got to conduct yourself in a way so that people want to follow you. So I'm bringing on another guest, expert here today. Chris, how are you doing today? Chris Gray with Red Palm Studios. How are you doing today, Chris?
Todd, life is good, my brother.
Man, look, we all want to be the hero of the show. We all want to lead the show. We've all been in that team. We're like, oh, I can do better than my leader. I can do better than that manager. And we've all got that chip on our shoulder. But the problem is, we need people to follow us, man. So let's talk to that person who wants people to follow them. They want to be the leader. How do they build their leadership voice? Where do we start with that? Where would you begin with helping a person build their leadership voice?
This is a really good question. I can just give you my personal experience.
Absolutely.
There's two things. I think to be a great leader, you got to be a good follower or a great follower. So in my former life, I was in leadership in corporate America. In my current business life, I am essentially the Scottie Pippen to two Michael Jordans, right? I have two businesses that I have equity in. I'm a Scottie Pippen there, and I'm okay with that because I'm following two great leaders. When I was in corporate America, I did not like it at all. My experience was a bunch of super fake people, but there was one or two people in there who were very real. When I found them, I was willing to learn and follow from them. Here's the thing. Here's the challenge. Let's say, like you said, everybody wants to be the star. They want to, you ask somebody, hey, do you want to own your own business and make a bunch of money? They'll say, yeah. That's what they want. And then if you give them the opportunity to do something like that, to run a business or be a part of a business, but they need to follow somebody, there's people would say they would be willing to do that, but there's some people who would push against that because they want to be the star. You got to be okay with learning from other people. Sometimes, not all the time, but you got to be okay with learning from other people, following, knowing, getting their example and being a great follower, right? That's one thing I've had to work on. Number two, one of the biggest things that I've had to work on, and now building another business. And when I was leader in corporate America, I wasn't great at the actual job itself. I was good at building a team. And the reason I was able to build a team is because they would want to follow me. Why did they want to follow me? I think the biggest thing was I eventually got comfortable with being me, man. That seems simple, but that's not easy. When I first got my big role in corporate America, I was thinking, what type of person does this team want me to be? Let me make everybody happy. Let me try to be all things to all these people here and figure out what he or she wants, what do they want. I'm thinking about what they want me to say. Now, it is important for me to consider the other in this equation. They factor in heavily. It is important for me to consider that. But I can't make myself the version of the person that I can't make myself a version of what they want me to be and what the other person wants me to be and what the other person. I need to be me and be comfortable and rooted in me. And we've all been around somebody who is just, you can just feel it when you're around. They're just okay with being themselves, and you get around them and you just feel it. And that by itself is settling.
It is absolutely settling. And if anyone's familiar with sports, it's the difference in an athlete who's just following the coach's instructions, and you can tell they're hesitant. They pause more. They think they're clearly thinking more, versus that person on the field or court where it's like they see the whole field. They're freer. They react quicker. So how did you do that? How did you? What did you have to believe first off to give yourself permission to just go be yourself? Sometimes it's people like, okay, I've had enough. I'm just going to be myself. But what was the gateway belief that helped you just go be yourself?
That is a deep question, and we can go down the rabbit hole. Let me try to answer it concisely. I had to be okay with me and know that I'm good enough. And with my warts and all my faults and all, I am good enough. And that's really simple. It's a simple way of putting of saying something that wasn't super easy. And then there's a bunch of self-work. There's books that I had to read. I had therapy, a short stint of therapy, and just working on me. And then also one of the things that helped me was like I was talking about earlier, getting around people who were, let's say, Todd and I know people who are successful, and that's great. And we know people who all they can do in life is just make money. Like that's all they're good at. Their family life is in shambles. Their health is in shambles. Then I've met people who are phenomenal business leaders, make a lot of money, great husbands, fathers, wives, daughters, whatever. That they're phenomenal at that, right? They're great at the family life. Then they have their health together. And when I found these people, I found a way to get around them and spend time with them. Now, here's the trick. When I got around these people, the insecurities would come out. Like imagine, if somebody said, hey, think about whatever millionaires whatever celebrities whatever it is, whoever you think has it together. If you were to sit at a table with them and talk to them, there's going to be some nerves because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm at the table with Elon Musk and Bill Gates. I'm not saying they're examples of success. I'm just giving you an example of what I'm talking about. But if you're sitting at a table with them, you could get real nervous. But I put myself in situations similar to that with people that I really respected, because I think I saw that they had their lives together and got comfortable being around them. This is the old thing, right? Show me your friends. I'll show you who you are. This is very true. I got around people with values and work ethic that I admired and just got used to being around that got comfortable in that environment. And then it's the old adage where if I'm standing on this table, is it easier for me to pull Todd up or for Todd to pull me down? Now, Todd's not going to pull me down, but you get my example. If you're around people who will pull you down, they're going to pull you down, right? And so I got around people who help pull me up, who help uplift me.
I mean, you really laid out two areas you have to get comfortable. You have to get comfortable with who you are and do the work on who you are. Get rid of those limiting beliefs that pull you down off the table and create new beliefs that give you permission to step into new situations. And then also getting comfortable, but being around a new tribe, a new group of people. And like you said, then there's a whole myriad of new things you learn just by being with that. It's like you become a different person based off who you're around. But yet I love how you said that still opened up the insecurities again. So there's a constant battle and a constant struggle of continuing that cycle of getting comfortable with who you are, getting comfortable with being a new level of person, then getting back comfortable with who you are. It's not like you just flip the switch and then this happens. It's like, it's a constant grind, isn't it?
It's a constant grind. But what happens is, what you'll see is you'll start that little circle you talked about. What happens is you'll start it and you'll have a big spike as far as growth. Then you're going to be in this plateau mode for a while, like a long time. And you have a little spike again, and then you're in this plateau mode for a long time. And if I was to graph this out, what happens is you're primarily in the plateau mode. But if you step out and look at it 3, 4, 5 years from now, from the point that you started to the point you're at, there's a massive difference. But the whole time you kind of felt like you were in this, plateau mode. But going back to what you were asking me is, when you go through that process, and it's work, man, but when you go through it, other people will notice. And then now this is where you become someone that others can follow. Why? Because you put in the work. You simply put in the work. The people that I wanted to follow, guess what? They put in the work. It wasn't like they just said, hey, you know what? I want to be somebody follows. And then everybody starts following. No, you go through your own grind. For me, went through my own grind, went through my own inner work. And as I started to change, and we're talking about, business stuff and people following you, but guess what? This stuff is transferable. This permeates through my entire life. As I became a better man, well, my wife is going to want to follow me more. Why? Because she sees a better man. My daughter wants to follow me more. Why? Because she sees a better father. The employees, I'm building another team right now, they want to follow me. Why? Because they see somebody who's put in the work.
I love that. And I think one of the other things that I heard you talk about was just being an additional belief that's absolutely necessary is, if you're going to be in the plateau majority of the time, you must have the belief that the growth is in the time period. The growth may not be visible. I may not see it, feel it, be able to tangibly grasp it, but I'm gonna look back. So that maybe it's the belief that the growth is seen looking backwards, or there's something along the beliefs there. But you have to have the ability to persist through that plateau and not give up. And you've got to keep doing the work, like you said.
Nothing worth it comes easy. Whether it's a marriage, if you wanted to get in shape and be a big muscular person, I don't go to the gym today and come back tomorrow and be Mr. Olympia. That's not how it works. It's time. You want to grow a business, you don't just say, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow and you're a millionaire. That's not how it works. I do jiu-jitsu. Start off as a white belt. That was 8 years ago, right? I'm still not where I want to be, but I would whoop the me that if I fought him 8 years ago, I would tear him up. That's 8 years worth. This is a transferable principle. Things that are worth it take time, and you just got to know that you're going to want to quit. And when you want to quit, you got to ask yourself, what am I going to say to myself at that point that I want to quit? Say that, because it's going to happen. You're going to want to quit. Yeah. Remind yourself of why you're doing it. Push through.
I love that. Hey, so you're also on a podcast. Tell us about the podcast where people can hear more of your wisdom.
It's thank you. It's called The Amazing Marketing Show with my partner, Dimitri. We are on YouTube. We're on wherever you stream your podcast. We just started it up, trying to get our voices out there. And if you want to hear me ramble some more, you can find me there.
Man, beautiful stuff. Thanks for the time, brother.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, stick with us. We need more of this information of how to build your voice so that other people can actually follow you. I love you. Stick with me. All right, welcome back, everybody. This idea of finding your leadership voice, it doesn't always come natural. You got your extroverts who can just talk to a wall at any time, but for the rest of us, it's a very intentional action. It's a very intentional action of who am I in this situation, and how can I create a connection that can actually lead people, a connection that people actually want to follow me. So my next guest is Jennifer Hopson, and she has a Shine Up coaching where she brings in her expertise of building teams and building individuals into a healthy lifestyle. Let me bring her on now. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I'm really great. Thank you for having me.
You're from the Boston area, but you're the friendly version. Is that right?
Well, we like to say we're not nice, but we're kind.
I love that. So, hey, Jennifer, let's use your expertise in building out your leadership voice. And let's talk to the person, talk to the individual who wants to be a leader. How in the world do they do? There's so many problems because it doesn't come naturally. So, from your expertise, how do you find your voice?
And one of the things too I was thinking is, or they're told that they can't be a leader, or they're not leader material. I think a lot of times we have to first take the time to identify who we want to be. What kind of leader would we even want to show up as? So many times we've been in regular jobs with regular bosses, and we've seen leadership skills that we didn't really resonate with. Or maybe we've had a mentor where we're like, that's the kind of person I want to be for other people. So really taking the time and identifying what are the qualities I would want in a leader first, starting at the very basics, and also being vulnerable. If you can be a leader that can admit you don't always have the answers, then you're going to go much further than the person that is going to yes people to death. Yes, I know how to do that. Yes, you know how to do that. I have all the answers. Don't go anywhere else. Also, I'm going to take everything on myself.
Let's talk about the vulnerability for a minute, because you said the first thing is the first hurdle you've got to overcome is the negative voice of what other people are saying. How do we dissect and disengage that bomb that keeps knocking our feet out from under us?
I think you have to be open to the idea that that's never going to not be a part of your job. That is always going to be something that you're going to have to work on. And what you have to do is establish a habit. Maybe those voices aren't going to go away. Those stories aren't going to completely go away, but you can turn them down. You know the things or the actions, right? Mel Robbins, she high fives herself in the mirror. There's other people, they go to their personal development reading every day. So if they start their day with 10 minutes of reading, those mean, nasty thoughts and stories and everything that everyone else would say, they can't get as loud because you're not allowing them to get in the way. I think that's really important, is putting things in place to check yourself and not spend so much time in the negative headspace, the negative energy, and in the negative spaces, really taking a look at who are the people I'm surrounding myself with. Because if I'm elevating up as a leader, I want the people that I'm spending the most time with to also be leaders, the kind of leader that I want to be. Because if I hang out with a crowd that all they do is talk negatively, maybe even about their teams, about themselves, about their companies, that's what we're going to spend the most time on. And we're not spending time investing in ourselves, investing in our people, opening up. You can't really be authentic if all you're doing is poo-pooing on everything. If you just want to be nasty all the time, there's a place for that. But as a leader, you have to rise above the negative energy, because people are going to follow your energy. They're going to follow who you are, not just what you say.
So the intentional movement within this, because that's our whole focus, is finding the intentional communication within this. First is the intentional understanding that the voice may not go away, but there are intentional ways that I can turn down the volume. Mm-hmm. I love that Mel Robbins with the high five, and intentionally feeding yourself with some positive information. And so I absolutely love that. So you said the next thing that a person has to do is what? So they turn down the negative, but then they need to define who they want to be. How do you do that?
I'm a big proponent of journaling. And if you kind of think to yourself, I'm not a journaler. If you can write a sentence on a piece of paper, yes, you are. It's just like reading. If you can read a page, you're a reader. And you need to spend some time with yourself, really identifying what the person, you think of that person, you're at the leadership position already that you want to be in, right? You're leading your company, you're leading your youth group, whatever it is that you want to be, that leadership role. And you write down the qualities of that person and what would that person have to do on a daily to be the leader that they require to be. And then, are they reading every day? Are they having one-on-one conversations with every day? Are they a healthy person, right? How do they treat their body? Figure out all the qualities. And guess what? You don't have, yes, I believe in growth, but you can start showing up as that person right after you identify who that person is and how they show up for other people, and really get down to the nitty-gritty and go, all right, I'm already that person. I already can do those things. I just had to identify them.
I work with a lot of introverts in building out their framework. And this is a common practice of, just like you laid out, it doesn't have to be personal. You can lay out an abstract picture of who you want to be and play that character. And that's almost like the framework that you've laid out here. It's not like, who am I today? And you fall into this woe is me scenario because you're not feeling it. You're definitely not going to feel it at first.
Yeah. It's going to feel a little bit like imposter syndrome for a hot second because you haven't shown up as that person yet. But I think so many people think they have to earn every single step of their journey. And yes, you need to earn things, you need to have experiences. But at the end of the day, if you feel like you need to earn every single quality that you already have deep down inside of you, you just haven't let it come to the surface, you're going to feel really frustrated that you haven't created that person yet. And you're always going to be yetting. I haven't been the person I need to be yet. I'm not the leader I want to be yet. And you just feel really, really frustrated because you're not allowing yourself, and it's back to what my company is, you're not allowing yourself to shine. You're not allowing yourself to really show up as the person you were meant to be. We all have that person inside of us. There are the people that capitalize on it because they let that person out. The people that don't, and sometimes it's very much because you're introverted. I find myself in between. I can be extremely extroverted in certain situations. And there's other times where I'm like, I would rather be a fly on the wall for this 3-hour event than anything. And it's finding that happy medium of who I want people to know that I am, where the comfort level is, and where am I going to push myself to grow into the person I want to be.
So is it about being specific with the specific behaviors? Is like, in this situation, I want to react this way. I mean, is it because you said you're not going to feel it? So how do you get those little wins?
I think it's creating the habits. You've decided the very specific idea of, I want to be the kind of leader that reads every day. Why do I want to read every day? To protect my mindset. So you create that habit. You decide when you're going to read daily. And then you're also deciding, I want to be the person that really pours positive energy into other people, the other people on my team, and just people in general. I don't even have to be leading them. Then what do? You intentionally make sure that you say some kind of kind or encouraging word. Maybe it's to someone on social media that you have no relationship with, but by you putting positive energy out, I truly believe in the universe that things are going to come back to you. So if you want to be the positive, encouraging person, be the positive, encouraging person. Don't wait to be that person. So if you're already working on your mindset, you're working on the energy that you're putting out, how you show up, maybe for your business, maybe it's for something else, but being consistent by identifying these are the very specific qualities I want to be, and starting immediately, a little bit at a time, every single day, instead of going, I'll wait until I've made this amount of money, then I can be that kind of leader. You're going to really be frustrated because you need to be the leader to make that kind of money.
And Annie said that tomorrow's always a day away. Isn't that what she said? Something like that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. We just we're always stop next daying it. Stop next monthing it. A lot of people next Monday it. I almost feel like it should be a verb. I'm going to next Monday it. And it's like, you're going to feel really stuck. Yeah. Stop next Monday.
Would you say the vulnerability you speak of is identifying something that you want to be even before it really is? It's because the vulnerability is the risk of that gap. Yeah. Would that be where that vulnerability is seeking to grasp something that isn't there yet?
It is. I think and I can speak to this because vulnerability has been a hard challenge for me. You mentioned earlier, I'm from Boston. We tend to we wear our heart on our sleeve when it comes to sports, not so much when it comes to personal emotions, right? We tend to hold it right at the top. And for vulnerability, as far as my leadership experience, it was allowing people to see the not so perfect part of my journey, right? I'm a recovering perfectionist, and that leads to procrastination, honestly, and revealing the not so pretty parts of life and not so pretty parts of your journey. It takes that experience away from the people you're leading, because then they start to go, well, my journey doesn't look like hers, so am I not doing it right? So it's not so much the gap of being the next person, but it's allowing yourself to know along this journey of becoming a leader, it's not going to be perfect. And I have to be willing to show. I mean, think of social media. How many times do people post that they've had a hard day in their business? No, they're posting, I made $8,000 while I took a shower today. And you're
In my
like,
Lambo. Yeah, I took a
yeah,
shower.
exactly. So I think the vulnerability piece is that's where the authenticity comes, is
Yeah.
if you can show the hard, they're not so pretty, maybe you didn't shower today, maybe you didn't hit that money goal that you said you wanted to, along with, hey, I encouraged a bunch of people, I did a speech today, I made this income. That's when it really starts to show up. And you have to show up in your small, consistent daily actions to be able to see the good and the bad of that.
I love that. And I love that you brought up social media, because that is the best way for a person to connect with you, because you lead people through this process of shining more and more and becoming their ideal self. These are some great tips. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. We talked about how to find your voice with that vulnerability, the specific intentional actions, but now we need someone to follow us. So there's a certain type of person and a certain energy we need to bring to the table. So let me bring back Jennifer again. Jennifer, let's talk on this topic, because it's one thing to say I'm a leader, but you're not a leader until someone's actually following behind you. So let's talk through that a little bit.
As you were saying it, I was just thinking of the Pied Piper and no one following behind him and going, why is this happening? I think a lot of times, especially in my network marketing business, you're typically leading large teams. And there's times where you're like, well, I just want to take a break. And you expect your team to still show up in the same manner that they did when maybe you guys were in extreme momentum. And even though you didn't tell them you took a break, they feel it. They feel it in your actions. They feel it in how you show up, right? You are sharing on social media. You are sharing your favorite quotes from your reading, all of these things. And you have to remember the energy of the team is followed by the energy of the leader. And if you aren't showing up for yourself, regardless of the team can feel it.
So you're providing the gas for the engine.
Exactly. If you're running on E, and that's also why we have to take care of ourselves, right? We have to make sure our battery is charged, so then we can pour into that machine, because we're not going to get very far on E. I'm the actual person that will literally run on E until I can get as far as I can go, but it never serves me. I can't get as far as I'd like to.
So let's talk more about that, because we've identified to find your leadership voice. I mean, you need to identify who you want to be, but now how do you fuel the engine so you're not just showing up high one time and then low the next? No one's going to follow that. How do you fill your engine?
You pour into other people and you build more leaders. You have to have this idea of, I'm the king of the castle and I'm on top of the mountain. Well, it's very lonely up there by yourself. And a good leader molds other leaders. And I think that's really, really important, so that there is a point where you're not doing everything alone, right? A raising tide raises all ships. My mentor always said it, hot coals burn harder. You have to be willing to take your experience, take your knowledge, and pour into other people and encourage them to show up. So now there's more of you. There needs to be more of you, And that's how you're able to keep the engine going, even when you're like, I need a hot second. It doesn't need your constant 24/7 energy because you've poured into other people to show up too.
So by pouring in and serving other people, you're setting up the scenario that you're not having to be the one who's carrying all of the weight at all times.
Yeah.
So is it also the reciprocal of that when you're pouring into other people is just the light on their face? Is that also fueling you, or how does that
Hell yeah.
work?
Heck yeah. I think I think the time that I get really, really powered up, and then now we're playing off of each other, is when I've encouraged someone to do something, say it's in my coaching business, say it's in an empowerment, and someone that was terrified of public speaking, right? They're at an event without me, and they're doing the thing that used to terrify themselves. I always joke with my people at the end of it, because usually the things that we're working in, it's not brain surgery. And at the end we go, but did you die? No, you didn't die, but you overcome something really, really scary to you. And that was amazing. Those are the things that make me more excited than my own personal journey. I know in my network marketing business, one of my directs, she got awarded a really amazing award, and she got to walk the stage. That brought me way more joy than walking the stage by myself, because I was able to put my hand down and pull her up. And now we were both accomplishing things.
So if I break that down, it's creating scenarios with the people you want to follow you where you're pressing them towards overcoming obstacles.
Mhm.
And then when there's a victory, you find the joy in celebrating
Yes.
those other things. And there's a lot of joy in that.
There really is. I think so many people don't take time to celebrate because they're on to the next goal, on to the next goal. And if you have a mentor or a leader that is ready to party and celebrate you, we all need a cheerleader. We genuinely all need someone that's on our side. And because that same person, when we're doubting ourselves and we're not showing up the way we wanted to, because they are there to remind us, hey, you said you wanted to do this, and this is why you wanted to do it. And I believe that you can do it. Now let's do it together. How can I help you? Because it's just as much my victory as it is theirs. Obviously, it's theirs and we're celebrating them. But on the inside, I'm like, I helped you do that because I knew you could do it to begin with.
Yeah. So it's getting the gas from them. They are the gas station. The other people you are serving are the gas station that fuels you back up. I like that picture.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's just an amazing, and it's, I mean, because you keep going with the gas thing, it's this machine that doesn't need to rely solely on you if you set it up to encourage enough people to also step up in your absence.
I love that, because let's say there's such thing as a solar car. The sun's not always shining in your world. So you need to go get some gas as well.
Exactly.
What a dude bringing a car conversation into empowerment.
I mean, it happens.
You got to be who you are. So how else do you bring that energy? What else does it take to bring the energy so that you're not just falling flat? Yes, it is people and clarifying who you want to be. How else do you do it?
I think one of the other big pieces I've seen time and time again, and it's a little different with the digital world, but it brings it back to community. Not always the time you're spending with the people you want to lead is goal focused. It's truly building relationships. I get energized a lot, maybe even at networking meetings or just events where I get to talk to new people. It can be a little draining at the end, but I really find energy from being, I mean, there's a reason when you go to a football game that there's energy, right? There's hundreds of thousands of people in the stadium. People give off physical energy. It's been proven. So spending time as often as you can building relationships and truly connecting with people, I think is also a way to tap into energy, because then you get encouraged and you see what other people are doing. So then you're inspired and you're motivated to help this kind of person and that kind of person. There's not a lot of energy at home by yourself on the other side of a screen for 9 hours.
Yeah, that is true. So it's finding people you connect with. I mean, that goes into your hiring and firing and all that type of thing.
Sure.
But it's the tribe of people. But I also heard you talk about when you brought in, and again, this is just me being a dude, but when you're talking about the game scenario, what is the cause that we're all fighting for? Is that a key ingredient in this?
I think when you're all focused on one singular goal, you're more likely to achieve it. When everyone has their own agenda, I mean, and I'll go back to football because it's one of my favorite things. If the defense has their own agenda and the offense has their own agenda and they haven't talked at all, they're going to cross on what they want to accomplish. In what we do, if one person is focused, say, on a product, one person is focused on this product, and that's all they talk about, and this person talks about this product, and they don't know about what the other person is doing, first of all, they're going to feel like have a lack of knowledge and they have a lack of focus. If there's one common goal for a team and they're aligned and they know why is super, super huge. If they know why, and if as a leader, you have created a clear vision for your team that they can get behind, because when they think, oh, why are we doing this? They can go back to why they're doing it. If they can see what's going to happen when you accomplish their goal, when you all are aligned on one singular goal, you are more likely to achieve it.
So based off what you're saying, would creating the why, if we were to create a formula right now, would it be
Sure.
Who am I fighting for? What is the cause we're fighting for? And then what's the common goal that we're all trying to accomplish? Would you add anything else to that formula?
Yeah, I think it goes to who, your why, and the goal, but then on the other side is the result. And the result is what you celebrate, right? And because if the why isn't
Clear picture of
clear,
what you want to
yeah,
celebrate.
exactly. Because if you're like, all right, I know the who and I don't know why, then the result is getting really, really muddy over here. If I go back, I know who, I know why, I take consistent action, the result is what's going to happen. And then at the end of it, that's what we celebrate. And it's almost a continuous every time you build a new goal. If you don't know why you have a new goal, I mean, it's the same in health and wellness. I want to lose 50 pounds. Well, why do you want to lose 50 pounds? Is it because your doctor said if you don't lose 50 pounds, you're going to be on blood pressure medication? Or is it because you want to look like somebody else, some, fake idealistic body? That's not as important.
So who you're fighting for and who you're fighting with,
Yes.
what you're trying to accomplish, and then what is the trophy you're trying to hold up at the end? That ultimately is the why.
Yeah.
And we need, in order to keep fueled, we need to keep a focus on all three of those key elements.
Yeah, I definitely. And I mean, and if you have to pick one out of all of them, say, you have those equations, and if you take one piece out of the puzzle, the equation is dead. It's always why. It is always why. Because if someone doesn't know why they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears, figuratively or not, they're not going to put the energy in. They're not going to follow a leader because the leader has it. Am I fighting for the leader's goal or am I fighting for our goal?
Yeah. You think when a person gets to that point of desperation, what is the first thing they already say? Why am I doing this again?
Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Every single time we're at a point of questioning a job, questioning a relationship. Why am I doing this?
So as a leader, if you want to stay fueled, be crystal clear on the why that you're trying to accomplish. What's the trophy at the other end? Yep. So Shine Up Coaching on Instagram. That's the best way to connect with you. If you're a business owner or a person that just needs someone to walk with you on this path, because you've been down this path with a lot of people on helping them clarify. And so that's right. I think if we do this, it'll actually pop up a heart.
This. I'm holding hands. Oh, okay.
That's the magic of television. So thank you so much for the time. And I can't, anyone who works with you is going to be absolutely benefited. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, stick with us. We got to keep solving this problem of how to develop your leadership voice so that people will actually follow you. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Look, we all want to be the hero of our story and the leader of our business and our community. But the problem is there are always forces fighting against us. There's always a wind in our face. So we must develop a leadership voice so we can break through those forces that are going against us, and we can make the progress that we're absolutely looking for. My guest today is Amy Singleton. She's the host of the Queen's Lead podcast. How you doing, Amy?
I'm fabulous, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Amy, on top of hosting the podcast, and there's a purpose behind the podcast because you're a female, clearly, in a male-dominated industry. So you own a digital marketing agency in a male-dominated industry. So building your leadership voice, going and talking to business owners over and over again, that's a tricky prospect. So talk to me a little bit about this process. How did you go about building your leadership voice?
Boy, I'll tell you what, I think we have to go way back to childhood to start talking about that voice that must be built, right? I actually heard Sally Field on a podcast say this last week, the becoming into your own as an adult is an unknitting of the sweater of our childhood. And I thought, wow, that's so impactful because, from a very early age, I knew I was born for leadership. I was born for stages. I was born for greatness. Todd, I used to tell people in front of my very regular, ordinary mother that Dolly Parton was my real mom. Because I just knew that that's what I was born for, right? I was born for stages and leadership. And somewhere along about the middle to the end of elementary school, that voice got dampened. That voice got quieted. And I had to slowly reclaim that voice by going back to who I was supposed to be in the very beginning, if that makes sense.
So, that is extremely interesting. So, how did you find that voice? How did you get re-anchored into who you knew you needed to be?
Boy, it's been a long journey, but talking to that little girl, really going back and appreciating her for who she was, and speaking life into her and speaking worthiness into her. You mentioned it being a male-dominated industry, and all throughout my childhood, like I said, I wanted to be a leader, but it seemed like the boys were always leading. They were the president of the clubs, and they were, the leaders of the lines and things, and that just didn't seem to make sense to me. In fact, whenever they would ask questions of the groups, and this has actually been proven through research study now, women, when asked a question, a group of students, young people who are not quite as groomed as we are as adults anymore, you ask young children, boys will give you their answer right away. Whatever they think is best, they will give that answer. Girls look around to one another, see what the other girls are saying and thinking, collaborate on what's best for the group, and then they give their answer. And this has been proven over and over again. So finding a voice of your own truth and your own purpose inside has got to be an undoing of all of those things that we learned as children. And for me, it was really going back to my worth, who I am as a person, and finding my purpose, and knowing that I am good enough and I am great at what I do. And there's a seat for me at that table. So
it begins with going back to that crossroads. And talking to that, it could be a teenage voice, it could be a young adult voice, it could be an elementary school, and figuring out what unraveled things, and then beginning to put the sweater back together, like Sally said. Mm-hmm. I really like that picture.
I'm listening to the Jamie Kern-Lima's new book right now called Worthy. And if you don't know who Jamie is, she is the founder of IT Cosmetics. She recently sold it for over $1 billion to L'Oreal. A huge entrepreneur. But she was a Denny's waitress when all of that started. Before all that started, then she went on to news anchoring and had all these problems. But she talks about this exact same thing. And she says to sit in front of a mirror and do mirror work and talk to yourself. And she even encourages people to tape a baby photo of themselves on that mirror and speak to that baby about how they are worthy of love and how they were meant to be here. She, in fact, was the product of a young teenage mother who who could have had an abortion, but gave her up for adoption when she was born. And then, she could have been even told herself that she was unwanted or unworthy. But now she tells herself that she was chosen and that she's here for a purpose. And so truly, it sounds so woo-woo and weird, but going back to that little girl, that baby, that teenager, wherever you disconnected from your true self, wherever you started to be told. For me, it was, sit down, be quiet. You're too much. You're too loud. My goodness, you're all over the place. Those were the things that made me great. And those are the things I get paid to do now. But, in school, it was all about being quiet and following rules and not thinking outside of the box. And so really, you have to go back to that place where you knew your purpose, your innate purpose as a person on this planet, your giftings. Think about, we were talking before we hopped on the air. What did your grandmother think you were good at? What did she think you were born for? She saw that spark in you. My grandmother thought I would be in media. She thought she wanted me to be a news anchor. I'm not exactly a news anchor, but every time I hop on my podcast, I think of my Grammy and I think of how proud she would be and how excited I am to be full circle in my purpose now.
I heard you say some very intentional things. And I think there's a lot of value in getting these things on paper and in writing. Those people that cared the most about you, what did they say? Your purpose, how would you articulate that? The things that you're great at, in your core you're great at, what are they? And writing those things down, that's a very intentional activity.
Yeah,
and then going back to that person saying, I give you permission to be this.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Is that kind of what you felt like you needed in that moment? That little girl needed permission to be loud and be great and step into that moment again?
Yes, absolutely. She did. And, it was a tiny little woman that gave me that permission at a mastermind one time. And now I'm able to give, people tell me all the time, like, you give people permission. I'm willing to go first. I'm willing to pick up that karaoke mic. I'm willing to do the skydiving. I'm willing to throw on the roller skates, whatever that means. I'm the one that's willing to go and giving other people permission to be their silly selves, to be a human being, to just be human again. I think we've put on these beautiful faces of red lipstick and jewelry and clothing and all of these things to hide who we are. And when we can really show who we are, it's a beautiful thing. I had been holding myself back and telling myself these labels that we put on ourselves. That's another thing Jamie says in her book. We have all these labels on us, like sticky notes, and we've been called too much, too loud, maybe not enough, too shy. And we think that these things are stuck to us permanently, and we don't realize they're just sticky notes. They come right off, and you can smack another label on you. So at that mastermind, I was so excited to meet this lady. I'd been following her on social media. She was this branding expert, all of maybe 4'11", tiny little riot of a woman. And I was so excited to meet her. And it was very early on in my business journey. And whenever she got off the stage, I ran up to her and I was like, oh my gosh, hi, I'm so excited to meet you. My name is Amy, and I'm so sorry. I know I'm a lot, but man, I'm so excited to meet you. Thank you. And this tiny little woman grabbed me by my shoulders and looked up at me. And she said, Amy, I know that you've been told you're too much your whole life, haven't you? And I started crying and I said, yes. And she said, don't you ever believe that lie again. Anyone who says that is not enough for you, and you are perfect just the way you are. And I just sobbed. And I know that other people in my life, my husband had told me, friends and family had told me those things, but I just couldn't believe it until somebody else that was a total stranger that I looked up to said that to me. And ever since then, it's been a complete journey of bringing hope and purpose to other people who have failed or failed themselves or been failed by others or believed those lies. And it's been truly a joy to find that voice of leadership and offer it as a gift to other people and give them permission to lead with the childlike gift that they were given.
Amy, that was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
That was a significant moment. How have you stayed in that moment? What's helped you not only hear someone give you permission, but receive that gift and then live in that gift? What's helped you stay in that moment?
May I talk about my faith?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's been my faith, truly. it was really hard at first, because when it was several years ago when I met that woman and she said that thing to me, and I searched for several years. I'd had a relationship with God in my past and kind of done the little tag game. If anybody can relate to that, like you're close with God and then you kind of run away and think, I can do this on my own. And I searched and I looked for ambition and I looked for purpose in all these different places. And it wasn't until a reconnection with God at, again, another mastermind event in Costa Rica, where an NFL superstar said a prayer and reconnected me with God like I never thought could happen before. And so now I know my true worth. I know that I'm a daughter of the Most High. I know that He cares about me and loves me. And my purpose is to show that love to other people. And so that's what keeps me going every single day, is that permission I can give to others and the love I can show to others. And the only way I can show that, because I am a worthless garbage person and super, super weak on my own, is through Jesus Christ.
Absolutely beautiful, Amy. Absolutely beautiful. And I mean, so to summarize, go back to that place of injury, be brave to go to that place, find a way to start knitting that back by who is the greatness? What is the greatness in this person? What do other people really believe is great about me? And then giving permission, finding a way of giving permission. And then whether through faith or whatever way you need to remind yourself, and faith is the way I do it as well myself, but continually giving yourself and other people permission to be who they are. Thank you so much. Nice. Anyone who watches the Queen's Lead podcast is absolutely benefited from it. And they can, what's the website they can find that and your digital marketing agency?
Everything can be found at amysingleton.net.
Thank you so much for the time, Amy. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, everybody, stick with us. It is hard to find your leadership voice. You got to do the hard work. Stick with us. Let's keep working on it.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.